Hi everyone, and welcome back to Waterhouse Forde. Today we're going to make a start on the annual service for the International B276. It's been standing all winter in the tractor shed. We have used it actually this season we've used it to mow twice, but it is essentially due its annual service. So today what we're going to do, we're going to first of all, I've warmed the engine up. The very first thing we're going to do is drain the oil, so that can be draining whilst it's still nice and warm. That's the engine oil. We're then going to proceed to remove the bonnet so that we can work easily on the engine. We'll do the oil filter change, we'll do the fuel filter change, we'll clean out the air filter. It's an oil bath filter, so we'll clean that out, replace the oil that's in there. And then I also want to check and reset the tappets. Definitely sounding a bit tappety. You'll also notice that the exhaust is a bit wonky. That got damaged driving past a tree. We got caught on a tree and bent the exhaust, so we're going to replace that. That's a straightforward job to do. And we're going to replace the lift arm height adjustment mechanism. Now, this video and all of our tractor videos are sponsored by Anglo Agriparts. Now, the other thing, very exciting news to share with you today, is that we have a special offer. Again, sponsored by Anglo Agriparts, we're going to be offering you a 10% discount for all of your tractor spares bought from Anglo. Now, there's a couple of conditions on that, and I'll go through the details of that later in the video. And of course, we'll give you the discount code as we go as well. I'll also put the more detailed rules about the promotion in the description of the video below. So, we hope that you're going to enjoy this video. It's been a couple of weeks, in fact a few weeks, since we last did a tractor video, so this is our first time back after just over a month. And the grass is growing and we need to keep it maintained. So we want to get this tractor ready for the season, and then we're going to continue, of course, with the Ferguson, which, as you can see, is tucked away in the back there, waiting its turn. Okay. Now, I always try to make it a habit of checking the bottom of the sump plug, and in this case we seem to have something stuck to it. I'm just going to see if I can get that. You can see what it is. I thought it might be a sliver of silicon, because I know that this engine has had silicon used on some of the gaskets, which is very annoying, but it's just the previous owner obviously thought that was a good idea. Look, this one doesn't look actually too bad. I know that this oil was changed just a year ago, so again, the tractor's only done probably about 20 hours since then. No, maybe 30 hours since then, so it hasn't, it's not that bad. Anyway, yeah, so that one's good. We'll move on. Now, before we lift the bonnet actually tilts forward, but before we do that, I want to get in here and get to the air filter, because once that's up, it's actually really difficult to get to the air filter. There we go. Okay, so you can see we've got the oil bath air filter, and basically we've got 3 clips. Not all easy to get to, but And that oil bath comes out, and then we have the oil. Well, the oil level is fine. We'll have a quick look and see what state the actual filter is in. So I'm just going to empty this oil into this same pan. Now you can see there's actually not a lot of junk in that filter, which is great news. And the oil itself still looks clean, relatively clean. There's a few dust particles. Hopefully the camera can see those, but other than that, it really doesn't look too bad. There's a couple of bigger bits in the bottom there, which will obviously get cleaned out. Let me bring it back into the light. So a couple of bigger bits there in the bottom, but we'll get those cleaned out, no problem. Okay, so now I believe it's safe to lift the bonnet. There we go. I'll bring you in a bit closer. So that's the business end. Now this bonnet's actually pretty neat. You can, if you wanted to take it off, you literally just have to remove those two hinge bolts, and then you can lift it right off. But for what we're going to do, we don't need to do that. So we should have enough space to get in there and do everything that we need to do. I'll take you around the other side. So there we have the other side. Now you can see that we've had quite a lot of carboning happening on the exhaust stack, so we probably want to close that off a little bit tighter when we put the new one on. And also, I'm not sure what all this is up here. I think it's just grass seed that's collected and that's come up through the front end. Definitely seem to have a bit of an oil leak on this Tappet cover gasket, so the good thing is we're taking that off and we're going to be replacing that anyway. So, right, so next job is to remove the oil filter, which is down there. It's a element type, so this casing basically unbolts at the bottom here. There's a bolt over there, and then this comes out, and obviously we've got a cartridge inside there, so we'll get that off. So there you got the element. It's it's difficult to tell, but basically it looks to be in good condition. I'll stand it in a tub outside and let it drain. Right, move on to the fuel filter now. Now, this is relatively straightforward. There's just a little bolt that runs through from the top, same as the oil filter really. So we're going to loosen that off, drop this out, and replace that cartridge. Obviously we'll get a little bit of fuel spillage, but hopefully I've got a tub here and I'm hoping to catch the majority of it. And you can see it's starting to leak already. Ideally I'd have my little helper here to hold the tub so I could do this two-handed, but unfortunately he's not around today. Okay, that's loose. Okay, now again, let's have a closer look at this. Now, the dirt that's in the tub wasn't entirely clean, so I wouldn't worry about that. But what I am seeing is there's quite a lot of dirt in the bottom of this cup. Now, it might be staining, but let's get rid of the fuel and have a closer look at that. Yeah, so it's not staining. So that's the dirt, basically, that the filter has filtered out. It's incredible, actually, how dirty fuel is. And we think we go to the fuel station and we fill up with fuel that is going to be clean, but actually this is just evidence that it's just not the case, and you absolutely have to have a filter on every engine that you run. So there we go. Okay, so here's the parts that we've received from Anglo Agriparts to complete this job. Some of the boxes got damaged, not by them, but by me. I had to have these parts transported because obviously with the lockdown, they were originally sent to my place of work, but of course we're all at home now, so I had to get them resent, and unfortunately the courier that I used wasn't all that careful with the parcel. But yeah, so some of the packaging has been damaged. However, it did its job and protected the bits inside. So forgive the state of the packaging, but let's quickly run through them. So the main parts really are the filters. So this one is the fuel filter. Let me come a bit closer. Now, as you can see there, the part number is A59334 for this tractor. And if we remove that from the packaging, we see that's nicely, still well protected, and has all the seals and everything that you need as well. So that's all hunky-dory. So that's that one. The next one is the element for the oil filter. Now that's only slightly damaged, but again it's fine inside. As you can see there, the part number is A59352, and again that's all hunky-dory. We've ordered a Tappet cover gasket, obviously I want to reset a Tappet, and as part of that we obviously want to replace that gasket, but also, as we saw earlier, looks like that gasket's leaking anyway, so that's a good thing. And then we've got, as I mentioned, the leveling, the lifting arm leveling assembly. So that's complete from top to bottom. It includes the knuckle, obviously the gearbox, and then the extension arm, and then down to the fork that connects to the lifting arm. And then finally we've got a new exhaust, which I haven't opened yet, but you can see the label. So the part number is A44247, and as you know, that basically just pops straight on once we finish the job. So we'll get that done at the end. Now, as I said at the start, or in the intro to the video, Anglo have kindly offered us a discount code for all of you, my viewers, to enjoy. So, again, thanks for sticking with the video so far. The discount code is available for all retail customers. In other words, it's not applicable to trade customers. If you're a trade customer, you already receive a certain amount of discount based on your agreement with them. But for all retail customers, which I suspect is probably the majority of you, if you use this discount code, you can enjoy a 10% discount. Now, it's absolutely essential that you use this discount code online at the point of checkout. Discount codes cannot be applied retrospectively. So please do remember, if you're ordering parts from Anglo, please do remember to put the discount code in. So there you go, there's the discount code. Sponsored by Anglo Agriparts. and of course brought to you by Waterhouse Forde on YouTube. The discount code is WF2020A/10, and as I said, that will give you a 10% discount at the point of checkout. So thank you to Anglo Agriparts for this promotion, and we hope that you will continue to support them. Okay, we're going to move now to the tappets. So the first thing we need to do is get this tappet cover off. Okay. Then we just got these two bolts. Oh, that's tight. It feels tighter than it should be on a tappet cover. You generally don't want your tappet cover bolts to be particularly tight because it squeezes the gasket too much and doesn't allow it to seal properly. So we've got one nut and washer and one bolt and washer, and then of course that front one is a nut as well. Okay, let's get this off. Okay, so first thing is there's plenty of oil in there. That's the first thing we look for, to make sure that we're actually getting oil to the top end of the engine. I mean, I know that that's okay generally because I have a oil pressure gauge permanently connected. We've got a little bit of dirt down here outside of the tappet cover gasket, just around this head bolt. We just want to get that cleaned away so that it doesn't make its way into the engine. So at some point I've obviously driven through a lot of grass seed, because there's a heck of a lot of grass seed all around this engine here. Right, let's have a look at these tappets. So we've got a couple that are loose, as in not under tension. Oh, that one's very loose. Okay, the tappet clearance is 20 thou on this engine. All the tappets are the same. Inlet and exhaust are the same. That's both hot and cold, which I find interesting. Let's just test that one. It's actually okay. If anything, it's a little bit tight. It's just a bit of sideways movement on that one. Right, so we're going to run through and probably just set all of them, even those that are okay. Right, so what we got, obviously, I'm sure most of you know, but you've got this locking nut, and then you use a screwdriver to adjust the adjuster bolt rather, and that set alters the clearance on your valve itself. So first of all, I'll just loosen this lock nut. Then I'm going to get the feeler gauge in there. I want to loosen this one ever so slightly. Okay, lock it again. Okay, it's a little bit too loose, so we'll just bring that up again. And lock it. Okay, that feels good. And what you're looking for is you want basically you want no clearance between the feeler gauge and either the top or either the tappet rocker or the top of the tappet. In other words, you want it to be firm but not tight. Originally that was quite tight. Now this one actually feels like we've got a ridge on this rocker, which is a shame. So really these should come off, and we should just try and smooth that out a bit. But that's actually okay. This one is too tight, so we'll just loosen that one off a bit. Which is about there, so we'll just hold that. We'll just hold that one there while we tighten up the lock nut. Okay. Okay, that's too loose now. Like that. Needs to be a little bit tighter. That's better. So we'll just nip that up now. Okay, so all three of those should now be the same, which they are. So we've done 8, 7 and 6. We can't do 5 because it's down, but it looks like we can do 4 and 3 and 1. So 2 and 5 we can't do at this point. Now what I like to do, because it can get a little confusing, and then I have a little paint pen. When I'm finished one, I'm just going to mark it. So I'm just marking the ones that I'm happy with, i.e. that I've done. So we now need to turn the engine so that number 2 and number, 5 are loose. So we'll do that quickly. One little trick that I wanted to show you, which I always use. I can never remember which way the engine turns, as in physically. The quickest way to tell is to look at the fan. The fan needs to suck air from the radiator back over the engine. In order to do that, because of the way this blade is angled, that there is the leading edge. That's the edge which needs to scoop the air and force it back. Look at that angle, right? So we know this blade needs to turn that way, i.e. this blade needs to go down in order to scoop air. If it went the other way, it would actually be blowing air that way. So what we can tell from that is that this engine turns this way. Now, a lot of you probably know that, you probably know it off the top of your head, but I can never remember it. So, and that's the way I work it out, basically. Okay, I've turned the engine now. So now we can see number 5 is loose and number 2 is loose. So we'll get those two set, and we can move on. So that one's a bit loose, we'll get that tightened up. Right, and then number 2 is very tight. Right, I'm happy with all of those. So we'll get this all, what I'll do is I'll quickly just check all the lock nuts. Great, now we can get the tappet gasket on. Now you want to make sure that it's sitting as straight as you can. Some tappet covers have a lip that the gasket can sit inside. This one doesn't. In that scenario, what you would do is put a very small amount of contact glue inside the tappet cover housing, and actually glue the the gasket into the housing. Like I say, just a very small. The spray adhesive is the best one because it obviously creates a very thin film. And that just holds the gasket in place whilst you're putting the cover on. But this one doesn't have that, so unfortunately we can't do that. Okay, I got the tappet cover. All I've done, I've just given it a wipe down just in terms of cleaning. If we were doing a more comprehensive service as in an engine rebuild or something like that, we'd obviously clean that up more. We'd give it probably clean the face. But looking at this face, it actually looks absolutely fine. It's perfectly level, no burrs or anything like that. So I'm just going to pop this straight back on, and obviously we want to make sure that we don't move that gasket. So we want to make sure that the cover is lined up and comes straight down without sliding. And then we want to check all the way around to make sure that the gasket is sitting straight and under the housing. Now just here it's sort of sticking out a little bit, so I'm just going to push it in slightly. That's fine. And back here where it was leaking, it's absolutely fine. That's it. So we'll get the nuts and bolts back on. All just finger tight for now, and then what we're going to do is bring it down as evenly as possible. So just over a quarter of a turn there, same there, and again. And you'll actually feel when it's tight. I'm happy with that. Yep. Great. We'll put the breather back on just to keep any dirt from going in there, but of course we need to fill up the oil from there. Right, let's move on to the fuel filter. We'll get that replaced. Okay, this is a bit of a strange angle. I'm showing you from the bottom of the fuel filter. This is the top here, and this is underneath. Now what I wanted to show you was there's a O-ring there. There's also a rubber gasket in there. Runs all the way around. Those need to be replaced. They come in the kit with the filter, and then they both need to be replaced. You've then also got one in the bottom underneath the filter you have another one here that runs in here. All of those seals come in the kit with the filter, and they all need to be replaced. So we'll do that now. Now I know you can't see what I'm doing here, which is why I showed you that previous shot, but it's just impossible to film and do at the same time. So I'm just trying to remove these two seals. Okay, there's the big one. And then the O-ring. There we go. So we'll get the new O-ring on. There we go, that's in. And then I think I can show you obviously for the lower case. And get that, oh, that one just slides out. And there you go, quite easy. Now I want to show you there is a very, very slight difference between these two seals. This one that's on the top was actually on the bottom. I'm going to put it on the bottom. That one is ever so slightly smaller than the top one. And again, when you look in the kit, you'll find that one is ever so slightly smaller than the other one. The smaller one goes underneath the filter, the bigger one goes on top. So basically they sit like that, smaller one, larger one. So here's the new ones. And if we hold them, we see that the bottom one is ever so slightly smaller than the top one. Now, the difference is not that huge that I think it'll make a huge difference, if you see what I mean. If you get them the wrong way around, they'll fit and they'll seal. But this is just something that I noticed the last time I serviced this engine, and I decided it was better to do it the way it was. So we just push this one. This is the bigger one, remember, in the top. Just push that into the groove. Make sure it's gone all the way home. Great. And then we can put the smaller one into the bottom case. Just like that. There's another two very small O-rings. One is larger than the other. I hope that you can see those. To be honest, I've never worked out how they go. So I'm just going to try and work it out as I go. Last time I landed up having to make a custom gasket to go on top here because it just didn't want to seal. It just refused to seal. So we're going to have another go this time, and if that fails, we'll make a custom gasket again. So here's our filter. Now, what I want to do is to actually put today's date on this filter, again using my paint pen, so that I know at any given point in time when this filter was changed. Okay, there we go. So I've just written it on with the paint pen. 19th of April 20. Right, so now this filter, we slide it over into the bottom housing. Okay, so I've just noticed the smallest O-ring fits quite nicely over this bolt that goes in the top. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to put that through. Hang on. There is then a bigger one. So what I'm going to do is put the washer with the larger O-ring underneath it, put that through, and then put the smaller O-ring underneath. This will push it upward. Yeah, that'll push it up. So yeah, we'll do that. So filter on the bottom housing. That goes up and locates in that stalk, and you slowly start tightening the bolt. And that comes up. And we just tighten this up. Now I don't believe this needs to be excessively tight. All you want to do really is compress all those O-rings, and that should be enough. Now we'll see if that leaks when we actually get the tractor running. And if it does, we'll try tightening it up, and if that doesn't work, last time this was leaking and I ended up having to make a rubber washer to go in there. But hopefully that will work. Right, let's do the oil filter. Okay, first thing we want to do is put the drain plug back in. Just let me show you. New copper washer, and I've also just cleaned up the nut a little bit. And we'll also just get rid of this old oil, because that's an accident waiting to happen. Now with these drain plugs, they really don't need to be excessively tight. There's no real pressure in the sump. You just want them to seal, basically, and that just means slightly compressing that copper washer. Standard spanner and just a reasonable amount of force, nothing excessive. Right, now similar to the fuel filter, in here you've also got another O-ring, and we need to get that out, so we'll start with that. There we go. Now in the kit, or rather in the comes with the oil filter, you get 3 different sizes of O-ring, and that's obviously because that particular filter is suitable for more than one tractor. So what you need to do is kind of match this old one and try and find the closest match. It does not mean that you need to put all 3 in. I've seen people try to do that and then wonder why they've got an oil leak. These seals, these O-rings or rubber gaskets, are not designed to work in pairs. So what you're looking for, this is the old one, cleaned up. Actually, that one's still quite suitable. I mean, it's still in pretty good nick. Now, these are the 3 new ones. They're a little bit wonky, just the way they were in the packaging. Now, first of all, you can see those 2 are a different depth. They're also a different thickness, only just, and then this one is kind of smaller again. So basically you've got small, medium and large, I think, although there's not much between small and medium. The main difference is in the thickness, the depth. No, sorry, the thickness. That's the depth. That's the thickness. So, based on that, let's have a look at our old one. Here's our old one. And I think it's pretty obvious that it's actually the larger one just because of that depth. You can see those two are pretty much the same. And in terms of the thickness, that's an exact match. Okay, let's get the element in and get finished. So the element is really easy. It's the same on both sides. It doesn't matter which way you put it. Obviously you've got the bolt in the middle, so you need to get that through the center of the element. That just slides in, and oh, there we go, and sits inside there. And basically it's as simple as that. This now just screws up. So you want to make sure that it's threaded first. You know, that it's threading properly. And then it should now is, and then you just tighten it up. And what I like to do is just keep turning it as it goes up to make sure that it's centering properly. And then you'll feel it will no longer turn, and that then means it's pretty much seated. Give it a little nip, not too much, you don't want to damage that seal, and that's basically it. Right, let's get some oil in this engine. Right, so we're going to do the oil now. Now, once again, sponsored by Anglo Agriparts, I'm using an SAE Forde for vintage engines. And again, these are available from Anglo's website in 5 litres and also in 20 litres. And they do an SAE 40 and an SAE 30 as far as I know. They then also have all your sort of hydraulic oils, gear oils, etc., etc. So again, if you visit their website and have a look, you can find whatever you need there for lubrications as well. I like to use a big funnel because it just allows you to basically pop this oil in as quickly as you can. You'll have to excuse all the mower noise. All the neighbours have decided to mow their grass today. It is a lovely day for it, so I'm not surprised. Now this engine takes around 6 litres of oil. This is a 5 litre. So I'm pretty confident I can just pop the whole lot in, and then obviously I'll measure more carefully for the last litre or so. It is struggling a little bit at the moment to get in, but it just needs to filter all the way down. Okay, now we'll just let that drain for a bit. Okay, I've topped up the oil. Now obviously what we'll do, we'll start the engine once it's run for a little bit. We'll then recheck the oil just to make sure, because it will go down a little bit. Obviously that oil filter will be empty, and that'll take up some, and other recesses that may now be empty will kind of consume some oil. Anyway, there's plenty in there for now. The next job really is now, because we replace the filter. That filter is now empty. It will refill. The engine will pump the fuel through and it will refill. But obviously we'll have air in the system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack the fuel line on number 1. And number 3. Just to allow it to bleed. Now I found that 2 is enough. If we need to, we'll do the others, but normally 2 is enough. So I just need to get the battery back on, reconnect the battery, and then we will try and start it up. Okay, here we go. Get a bit of glow plug. Okay, just give the starter a bit of time to cool down. Now obviously when it starts it's going to sound awful because it doesn't have the exhaust silencer on, but obviously we'll pop that on when we get the bonnet back on. Right, let's give it another go. Okay, we've got fuel coming out of both number 1 and number 3 now, so we'll tighten those back up. Hopefully then it'll start. If it doesn't start, then we'll try number 2 and number 4 as well. Almost there. Well, as you can hear, it's certainly sounding a lot better. No, we're not getting that tappet noise that we were getting before, so that's fantastic news. Took a little bit of effort to get the fuel system bled, but we got there in the end. And of course now it just starts on the button like it always has. So I'm going to check the oil again, just make sure, I will basically just top that up if needed. And then of course the final job will be that lift arm adjustment lever. So yeah, we're slowly but surely getting there. Right, now we're around the back of the tractor, and what we want to do is take off this lifting arm leveling box mechanism. So hopefully it's a simple case of removing that pin at the top and that knuckle at the bottom. I know that the knuckle at the bottom is loose because I've had that out before. But it should be a simple case of removing those two and then putting the new one in. Let's see how we go. I might need to drift that one a little bit. There we go. Okay, now I know that looked really easy, and indeed it was. And the trick really is to make sure that you keep all of these knuckles well lubricated all around the tractor, but especially here at the back. You will have seen, if you watched our Ferguson videos, you would have seen how we struggled literally for days to get those pins out because they had become so rusted and encrusted inside there. But what I've always done with this tractor from day one is I've always made sure that I put a little bit of oil on each of these knuckles pretty much every time I go around with the grease gun, which on average is about once a month. So I make sure that I grease everything, and then I just put some oil onto these knuckles. Also things like the brake couplings. You have a lot of little knuckles and pivot joints in the brake mechanism. Same story there, just put a drop of oil on each one. And what that does is it makes sure that everything just stays lubricated, and indeed when you need to take it off, it's straightforward. Right, now we're going to unpack the new one and compare it to the old one. Okay, so here we go. Here's the new one. Again, part number A90954, supplied by Anglo. I'm going to take it out of its bag and compare it to the old one, which is lying down here. Okay, now straight off you can see there's quite a few differences. Looking at the bottom, for example, we see that this distance here is smaller than this distance here, so we'll have to see how that fits. We may have to make some shims for that. The body of this looks completely different, as you can see. And what's probably also quite significantly different, if you see, I've got the knuckles facing the same way. This one is up, that one is up. And you see this one, the handle sort of pops out at an angle at the top, and this one comes out straight. Now, the interesting thing is that actually this one is quite inconvenient, because when you're turning it, if the lift arms are high, as in up, you bang your hand on the number plate. Now, of course, you could just move the number plate, but nevertheless, I think that that's going to be quite helpful. I'll need to check the size of that hole. Feels like there's a little bit of a burr on there, so that might need a little bit of cleaning up, but otherwise it looks, I mean, that one's most likely worn, to be honest, but let's have a look. So, yeah, look, it is different. I wouldn't call it a direct replacement. And of course, we just need to check out these here. We may have to put some shims in or something like that. But for the most part, it looks like a different, but hopefully better version. Okay, I had a quick look, checked this pin, and there was a little burr on there. Just ran around it with a round file, and that now slides in nice and easy. So let's get this on. Although, let's just check this pin. I'm not sure if that pin is going to go all the way through. Let's see. Yeah. So unfortunately that pin no longer reaches. So unfortunately it's not a direct replacement because this pin isn't long enough to go through and for you to get the cotter pin through. So I need to work out what I'm going to do about that. Okay, I've come up with a solution. What I've done, I've taken this link chain, and in the end here I've drilled and tapped a hole, and what I'm going to do is just basically screw a bolt and a washer on to hold that in, rather than putting a pin through there. You'll see how we go. The other thing I've got is a couple of washers which are large enough to go over that pin, so they will act as spacers between the bars. So let's get that in first. There we go. Okay, and then as I say, I've got this bolt, put another washer on there, and then a spring washer and a flat washer which will hold that on. And before I tighten that, I'll pop this in. Okay. Right. That'll work. We've got a little bit of play in there, but not a lot. and that should be fine. Now the great thing about this is it has a lock to hold basically wherever you set this. If you decide that that's where you want it, and then what you do is you push the handle down and you just click that over, and that handle can't move now, which is pretty cool. So you can essentially lock it into the position that you want. Now what I'm going to need to do is to extend the left hand side. You can see that arm is now touching the floor and that one's not. So, and that's at its, I need to adjust that so that it's at its limit. And then what I'll do is I'll set that one to be the same, roughly. And then hopefully we'll have a chance of adjusting it if we need to. Okay, that's about it. They're about equal now. Let me just move the camera so you can see. So they're pretty much just off the floor on both sides. Last job really is to just readjust that check chain. I'll do an initial adjustment now, and then I'll check it once I've got an implement on. So look, that's that for now. I'm now going to take the tractor outside and just give the engine a bit of a clean, a bit of a hose down, and then what we'll do is we'll finish up by putting the air filter back together. Okay, I've brought the tractor out now. I'm going to spray the engine with a degreaser, and then obviously spray it down with water. But just wanted to show you quickly, when you lift the bonnet on this, it splits the air intake. So you've got this is the air intake manifold. So I've just covered that up with plastic because I don't want water or anything getting in there. And of course I've just done the same thing inside there as well to the rubber hose, which would normally fit on there. Right, so I'm just now going to spray it with degreaser, and then we'll leave it for a bit. I might sort of agitate it a bit with a paintbrush or something like that. But for the most part, the degreaser should do the job, and then we'll just spray it down with the hose. Okay, that's as you can see, come up nice and clean. We just leave that in the sun for a bit to dry, for all the majority of the water to drain off, and hopefully for most of it to dry off. And then we'll put the bonnet back and we'll be done. So listen, that's it for this video. So that's the annual service, along with a couple of other little bits like replacing the exhaust and also replacing that hydraulic lift arm adjuster. Again, that's not a 100% replacement. As you can see, I had to make a slight adaptation. I need to research whether you can get slightly longer pins for that for the check chains. But again, looking at the check chain, you'd have to replace the whole thing. So that's why I decided rather just to try and adapt it. But for what it is, it looks like a very good piece of kit. Just don't forget to grease it before you put it into service. I still need to do that before I take the tractor out and put it to work. But yeah, listen, that's it for today. I hope that you enjoyed it, and most importantly, I hope that you continue to watch, and have a good week, everybody. Cheers for now.